Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you all so much for being with me here today. I appreciate each and every one of you so very much. Today I want to share with you 4 albums from the Atlantic 75 series that Analogue Productions is doing that, to be honest with you, I've had for quite a while. Well, some of them are 3 to 4 months old, and there's a couple that are maybe a few weeks old, but I just haven't had an opportunity to open them up and listen to them due to the holidays, a vacation here and there. Of course, a new set of speakers, which has really been a wonderful thing for me, getting used to those and really listening to albums and music that I'm really familiar with, so I can kind of get a grasp on what these new speakers are doing that is different than what the old ones were doing. And so I've been, busy doing a lot of that. Not to complain, I've loved it, but I just haven't had a chance to open these 4 albums. And the albums are actually 2 albums by Charles Mingus and a couple by Genesis. And I just haven't had the opportunity to open these. And gosh, it's crazy that I didn't, because they're all 4 really, really good albums. But anyway, I really just wanted to share what I found when I did finally open these and listen to them, and just kind of give you an idea of what I thought as I was listening to these albums. And just kind of another, I don't know what you really would want to call it, another installment in the Atlantic 75 Analogue Productions series. And keep in mind, I'm not getting them all, I'm just getting some. In fact, we're going to be doing another video really, really quick on 7, 8, maybe 9 Analogue Productions as part of the Atlantic 75 series SACDs. We're going to talk about how they stack up, and how they sound. How was the digital version of the Atlantic 75 series that Analogue Productions is doing? And we're going to take a look at that. But today I want to take a look at these 4 albums, 2 by Genesis and 2 by Charles Mingus, 2 great jazz albums, 2 great good classic rock and roll albums that I'm really excited to share with you today. I've been listening to them quite intently for the past few days. But anyway, I really am excited to share that with you today. If you like what you see, please go ahead and subscribe. Appreciate that. But most important to me is please leave comments in the comment section below. I really love hearing from you. Thank you so much for doing that. Let's go ahead and get started with 2 great jazz albums from Charles Mingus. So the 2 Charles Mingus albums, as part of the Atlantic 75 Analogue Production series that they are doing, that I want to share with you today, personally, they couldn't be more different. I mean, they're both Charlie Mingus. On one, he's playing the bass. On the other, on Oh Yeah, he's playing piano. And so, the guy's multi-talented. He's an absolute, legend. Love Charles Mingus's music. These 2 are great albums, but they're very, very different. Let's go ahead and start with Oh Yeah and take a quick look at it and see what we have. Of course, as we've come to know with Analogue Productions as part of this Atlantic 75 series, they just do an incredibly awesome job with the gatefold album covers. They are just absolutely stunning. I think that their quality is really, I don't know, unmatched, if you will. I think they're incredible. Here's the back side of it. Let me just quickly pull out an album and show you what you get. Of course, in the packet album, you get an advertisement of a lot of the albums that they are doing. We're all familiar with that, which I think is really quite cool. And then we have the album, 180 gram. Now, both of these albums by Charles Mingus have been remastered by Kevin Gray at Coherent. And so we already know that they're going to be fantastic. At least most everything that I have heard that Kevin Gray has done has been absolutely wonderful as far as his remastering from the original master tapes, which is what has happened with both of these albums. Let's go ahead and get started, and I'll kind of tell you briefly. I'm not going to go through every song, even though there's not very many songs on either one of these albums. In fact, this album here just has 4 songs, 1 on each side of both albums. But let's go ahead and get started with Mingus Oh Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the original Mingus Oh Yeah album was released in 1962. So it was really well recorded back in 1962. And of course, Kevin Gray, being the guy doing the remastering here, has done an absolutely fantastic job. Expectations, of course, are high. And you know what? He's done a really good job. Let me just take a couple, three, four of the songs and just tell you quickly about them. On side one, Hog Calling Blues. This is a fun song, actually, a really fun song. Charles Mingus's voice, his vocals on this track are really quite fun. It's a really upbeat song, which is really cool. Lots of detail on all the instruments, good space around them, good definition and detail. Bass line on the bass from Doug Watkins is excellent. Sax by Booker Evans, or excuse me, Booker Irvin is detailed, as is the trombone. This album really, really does sound good. And I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about the horns as we move further on. Moving over to side two, there's only one song on side one. Moving over to side two, Devil Woman. This is a fun song too. I think it's the best song on the album, Oh Yeah, in my personal opinion. Mingus vocals are great. The saxophone solos by Roland Kirk and Booker Irvin. There's two saxophone solos by those two guys, and they're both absolutely fantastic. Excellent detail. Top end extension on both is phenomenal. It's just really, really, really well detailed with a really nice high end. I mean, it really does get up there high, but not to the point where it irritates or is edgy. It's so very well defined. Trombone by Jimmy Kemper is excellent. Imaging with the horns on this song is phenomenal. In fact, when you're listening to this song, and this would be the song, if you're not familiar with this album, that would be a good one, at least in my opinion, to go in and vet out. Devil Woman, because the horn section, the saxophones, trombone, and so forth, clarinet, I believe, is in there as well. I think a trumpet. Um, you've got such a huge wide stage. The recording is just beyond the speakers in width. It's really neat to hear the sound stage, and it's really throughout this entire album with the horns in particular. It just really broadens the stage. It's really a neat experience. I think it draws you in a little bit closer to the actual event as they were recording this. It's really quite neat. Next song on side two, and the last song that we'll talk about is number two on side two is Wham Bam Thank You Ma'am. Fun, energetic song, excellent horns once again. Drums and bass are pretty darn well defined with pretty good weight on them, to be honest with you, especially on the bass. Good weight on the bass guitar, excellent, or excuse me, on the bass, excellent sound. Overall, a great song. Like I say, the star to me on this album is Devil Woman, if you're looking for a song to vet out. But realistically, this album, the horn section sounds phenomenal. You've got such a wide stage that they create in the way this was recorded. Excellent, excellent song. Jump on Spotify or Apple Music, wherever you listen to your music, and vet it out. It's a fantastic album. Kevin Gray and the folks at Analogue Productions have done a great job in remastering this album. I think it's a classic of Mingus's. I really like it. It's got great jazz music, and the sound is absolutely stunning. Moving on to Pithecanthropus Erectus. This is a great album. At the Charles Mingus Jazz Workshop. What an excellent, excellent album. I'm just going to show you the cover. I'm not going to pull any albums out. They just do, once again, they just do a phenomenal job with their gatefolds. And I think the pictures that are included are just fantastic. Of course, the notes and stuff that you get and the information about the album is just absolutely wonderful. I'm just going to start and talk a little bit about the sound. This album, of course, was remastered by Kevin Gray as well. And so, at least in my opinion, tell me what you guys think. When you see some of these guys, Bernie Grundman, Kevin Gray, Ryan K. Smith, you kind of get, I don't know what the right word here is. I think you kind of get pretty high expectations, I guess, is probably the most accurate way to describe it, or at least I do, and kind of thinking, okay, these albums are going to be crazy good, certainly better than the original pressings, which for the very most case, at least from my experience, they have been. Uh, anyway, you kind of get that impression that, okay, you're going to be overwhelmed, and for the most part on this Atlantic 75 Analog Production series, that's kind of been the case. They've been really, it varies from marginally better to, oh my heavens, better. Okay. This one here, this album here is absolutely crazy good in its recording and its sound quality. The music on it is fun, it's exciting, but I got to tell you what, the sound quality is crazy something. In fact, on the title song on side one, now like I've said on this album, there's only 4 songs on this album. 1 song per side of the 2 albums, so 4 songs. The title track on Pithecanthropus Erectus, side 1, only song on side 1, the title track is incredibly dynamic, and I do mean incredibly dynamic. I usually set my preamp at 15 and just sit back. It's generally a good spot. Then you can adjust either up or down. I realize albums are recorded some hotter than others, some softer than others. I put this thing on, and it's not recorded hot at all in any way, shape, or form. It's just phenomenally dynamic, especially well, and the rest of the album is really good too. I don't want you to think that it's not. It is really good, and there's some great music on this album. But the title track, Pithecanthropus Erectus, I tell you what, you've got to hear it, vet it out, listen to it. On this album, on this version, Kevin Gray remaster, Analogue Productions, Atlantic 75 series. It sounds phenomenal. Piano by Mel Waldron is absolutely excellent. Very good detail. Sounds very clean. Well balanced with all the other instruments. The saxophones are just crazy well defined. Mingus's bass sounds excellent. The drums by Will Jones are very well defined, and they really do have proper weight. The entire musician group is just well balanced. But I tell you what, this song is dynamic. Moving over to side 2, A Foggy Day. Much more laid back song, not nearly as dynamic, but really well defined, really, really well recorded. Mingus's bass is excellent. Piano and sax are clean and very nicely detailed. On side 3, Profile of Jackie, a really great song, by the way. Fantastic recording. Piano and saxophone are spectacular. Bass is tight with good weight to it. Last song on the album, side 4, Love Chant. Really good song as well. Starts out slow but really builds. Nice mix of instruments with all the great detail and clarity. Of course, Mingus's bass is incredible, as it is throughout this album. But I'm here to tell you, if you want to vet this album out, if you're not familiar with it, title track, Pithecanthropus Erectus. You got to hear that song. Check it out, vet it out. On this album, Kevin Gray remastering Analogue Productions Atlantic 75. It is startlingly. It's just startlingly. You put that on and it just startles you. I'm not kidding you. It's that dynamic. It really, really is. This is a great album to test the bounds of your system, to maybe get an idea of top to bottom, uh, because I'm here to tell you what, it's very dynamic. And the highs are very extended. The bottom end is very nice and well defined and has really good weight to it. It'll give you a really good idea of how your system's performing. Highly recommend, even if you just want an album that you can just kind of like, whoa, this is really cool. My sound system sounds really good. This is a great album to do that with. It sounds really good. At least it did to me. Vet it out. The music on here is fantastic. Charles Mingus and his group, just fantastic music. But I tell you what, sound quality is first rate. I really believe this is really a great jazz album with incredibly good dynamics and good jazz music. Highly recommended. moving from jazz right into some classic rock and roll with Genesis, two of the Atlantic 75 Analogue Productions series that they are doing, two fantastic albums. If you call Nursery Cryme from 1971, Peter Gabriel was part of the band, and Phil Collins for this album just joined the band. And so, boy, I tell you what, you had some future heavy hitters at the time on this album. And let me just kind of show you the album cover. Once again, I just think Analogue Productions is doing a phenomenal job with these gatefold album covers. The texture on this album is just incredible. The gatefold and the pictures and everything on the inside, I think they are just doing a fantastic job. The back cover, once again, the texture is just incredible. I do have one of the numbered versions of the album. Let me go ahead and get started and talk a little bit about, I'm not going to pick talk about every song, but I'm just going to pick out two or three that I felt really sounded great on this album. Starting with side one, the musical box, and the song starts out pretty slow. And this is really going to be my pitch and my gratefulness for the quiet vinyl. You know, this music comes off a dark and black background, and when you have quiet passages in a song, this becomes huge. It becomes really, really important. At least it does to me. It's so much easier to enjoy, and I believe you're actually getting a better indication of definition and detail and clarity when that vinyl is as dark and quiet as it is. That's just my opinion. As we indicated, it starts out quiet, drums come in, along with all other instruments, vocals. It's all properly balanced. It sounds fantastic. Running over to side two really quick. The first song on side two, For Absent Friends. Quiet background because you need it with these songs, because they start out and generally have quiet passages in those songs. And that's really a hallmark, really, of this album. The second song on side two, The Return of the Giant Hogweed. This is a great song. It's pretty dynamic. It's a really fun song. Excellent detail, extension top to bottom. Drums actually sound really nice with this, with good definition and proper weight. Guitar is extended and has great clarity and definition. This truly is a fun song. One of my favorite songs on the album, The Return of the Great Hogweed. Really fun song, really fun album. I really believe they did a great job with this. Chris Bellman, in his remastering, has done a really nice job. If you're a Genesis fan, it's really a no-brainer. You're not going to find it really sounding any better than you're going to find with this new Atlantic 75 series remaster and release. It sounds incredible. The only downfall that I have to this album, to be honest with you, and really any of the Atlantic 75 series, the only drawback that I have is their 45 RPM. That's it. Other than that, these albums are absolutely been wonderful. We're getting some classic albums like these remastered, sounding better than they ever have before. Really, really neat albums. Okay, let's really quickly move into Genesis. A Trick of the Tail. Now, Peter Gabriel has left the band, so Phil Collins is the front man for this album. Let me just again show you the gatefold cover. What an excellent job they're doing. Once again, both these albums have just got incredible texture, as the originals were. The gatefolds are just stunning, just absolutely wonderful, colorful. This is numbered as well. This album here was a little bit more to my liking, if you will. It had more music on it that I really and truly enjoyed. Kind of that progressive rock, if you will, album, which is what Genesis really was at the time that they were, you know, providing and making great records. Of course, this album was mastered by Chris Bellman as well. Side one, first song, Dance on a Volcano. Wow, excellent dynamics. In fact, I should say this, and I realize that there's a difference. This was recorded in 1976, originally, and this was 1971. The differences in the scale and the dynamics and the extension top to bottom is much better on Tick of the Tail or Trick of the Tail because of, I don't know, better recording techniques. I don't really know, but the sonics on this album are really quite a bit better than we find on Nursery Cryme, even though Nursery Cryme is excellent. Dance on a Volcano, dynamics are, like I say, phenomenal. Drums, organ synthesizers are all well defined, extended on top, bottom. Bass guitar is also excellent. You can pick it out, you can hear it. Phil Collins' vocals are excellent. Second song on side one, Entangled, great guitar entry along with Phil's vocals. Quiet vinyl. It's just really superb on this track because there's some areas where it's got some pretty quiet parts to the song, and having that black dark background really does help. Dynamics are excellent on that. Really, they've done a great job with these two albums, as well as they have all the other Genesis albums that the Atlantic 75 and Analogue Productions is doing. Uh, if you're a Genesis fan, these are no-brainers to recommend. They're really easy to recommend. I'm a Genesis fan to a degree. They're the band that I did listen to, not a lot, not like some others from that time, but I really do like their music. I've actually got a couple of their albums on SACD as part of the Atlantic 75 series, and we're going to be talking about those in an upcoming video here right shortly. So anyway, if you're a Genesis fan, you're not going to hear these albums sound better than what you're getting from these remastered Chris Bellman albums from the Atlantic 75 Analogue production series that they're doing. They're simply fantastic, great sounding music. Absolutely love these two albums. Thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please drop a line. Let me know what you're thinking. If there's any suggestions you have on some albums that you would like to hear about, we can review down the road. I'd love to hear from you. Keep in mind, we've got coming up just as soon as I have an opportunity to listen to it and compare it. We're going to be listening to Yes, Fragile as part of the Atlantic 75 series. We'll be comparing that album to a Mobile Fidelity One Step as well as with an original pressing. I believe I've even got a couple of versions of this on compact disc that we'll take a look at as well. That's forthcoming as well. Thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of you so very much. Until next time, have a great day.